Hey, y'all, one more again. Welcome to another episode of the Political Chop Shop. And we're going to talk about this Portland thing. And we're going to point out how disingenuous the media is being. The name slinging, the mud slinging, all that. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. But I want to expose their bias, their lack of knowledge, right? Their lack of knowledge on the situation that's actually going on the ground. I will say about all these media pundits that want to throw around the federal agents don't know what they're doing and all this stuff. I want them to go out and put on a uniform. I want them to do that and study the laws and jurisdictions thereof, and then come back with a different opinion when they're done, right? But this video is going to be an indictment of their pure bias, right? So the first thing I want to get into is the readout from DHS on this. So this is the readout from yesterday, what's actually going on in Portland right now. Basically, we'll read bits and pieces of it, but I want to get into a little bit of the timeline here. DHS reports around 8 p.m. local time, Pacific time, a shooting occurred in the vicinity of the peaceful protest located near federal buildings, possibly involving a juvenile. The Portland Police Bureau has said it is investigating the incident. At 10:50 p.m. local time, a rioter began to attack the fence protecting the federal courthouse with a stick. Around this time, there were approximately 500 to 1,000 individuals gathered in the vicinity of the courthouse. At 11:19 p.m. local time, rioters launched their first laser attack of the night against the federal officers. Shortly thereafter, at around 11:45 p.m., rioters fired the first mortar fireworks of the evening at federal officers. At 11:49 p.m. local time, rioters breached the courthouse fence before exiting again shortly thereafter. 11:54 p.m. local time, a fire was reported in the vicinity of the courthouse outside the fence perimeter. More rioters continued to climb the fence. At 11:58 p.m. local time, at least 4 mortar fireworks had been launched at the courthouse. 12:03 a.m., federal officers announced their third warning for rioters to cease and disperse. At 12:04 local time, a flare was thrown into the fence perimeter at the courthouse. 2 minutes later, local time reports indicates the rioters attacked the officers inside the courthouse with lasers. At 12:07 local time, federal officers were forced to use crowd control to repel attacks on them in the courthouse. Rioters responded with more mortar firework attacks. At 12:09, a Molotov cocktail was thrown over the fence. At 12:16 a.m. local time, federal officers declared an unlawful assembly. At 12:18 local time, it indicates that a group of rioters were shielding others attempting to breach the fence by cutting through it. At 12:25 a.m. local time, federal officials were forced to leave the courthouse in order to defend the fence. Rioters responded with flaming projectiles. At 1 o'clock local time, a portion of the fence was set on fire. At 1:10 a.m. local time, federal officers were forced to go outside of the fence perimeter to repel rioters' attacks. They were immediately met with a large mortar firework attack. They also came under an intense laser attack while outside the perimeter. While outside the courthouse perimeter, per authority granted by federal law, officers swept a nearby park for weapons being used to damage federal property and attacks on fellow officers. During the sweep, chemical sprayers, gas cans, spike strips, and paint were found. DHS officers conducted a total of 10 arrests, 9 for assault of a federal officer, and 1 for violating a no-fly zone with a drone. So we see here what happened just overnight in Portland last night, right? So I'm going to play this next video. I want y'all to sit back and and relax and have a fun fit. But we're gonna break it down on them, because you seen what DHS is putting out there in conjunction with FPS, right? So let's go ahead. Let's jump into the video real quick, and let's take a look and see what MSNBC is talking about here.
We are living in a world where secret police are detaining protesters.
Okay, so we're looking at secret police here. Is that what we're doing? We're doing the secret police thing again. You mean these secret police? You talking about these guys here? These guys that clearly has police marked on the back of their shirts with the ice patch on them. They're not secret. It says police. How are they secret? These are secret police, though. I mean, police written, secret police. I mean, I'm not. I might be the most smartest guy in the world. Not really the most smartest, but I'm pretty smart to see that it says it's clearly marked police, right? It's clearly marked police on the back of their gear. Let's go back to the video.
Without probable cause. So if you look out upon the nation, you will note across the chasm a lot of us staring, saying, "We try to tell you." And you really touch on, look out upon the nation, you will note across the chasm a lot of us staring, saying, "We are detaining protesters without probable cause." So if you look out upon the nation, you will note.
Okay, so we're now detaining people without probable cause here. This is quite hilarious, because if we go right here, this order in Vox, there's this article in Vox titled "How Feds Used a YouTube Stream to Arrest a Portland Protester." I think MSNBC missed this. I think they missed this, right? Because that is exactly how they're catching these people. All the citizen journalists are on the ground right there in Portland, right? And they're actually like, you know what I mean, streaming it on YouTube and DLive and LiveLeak and all these sites. So the federal government is not stupid. They don't need their surveillance or their camera. They just need to see, oh, people are actually filming this happening. Then that's enough evidence right there. They go pick people up. But I don't reckon these folks at MSNBC are really that bright when it comes to this. So, let's continue with the video here real quick.
Across the chasm, a lot of us staring, saying, "We try to tell you." And you really touch on some interesting things in your piece in The Atlantic. I loved it. And you say that Donald Trump's authoritarianism is a form of politics that reached new heights. And you compare this, what we're seeing in this landscape, to Russia. Explain that to me.
So thanks. I think the important thing to understand about what Trump is doing is that these are not tactics designed to solve the problem. Why is he sending Customs and Border Patrol, Coast Guard, TSA officers into American cities? These are people who don't have training in riot control, who aren't used to dealing with political protests, and whose main goal seems to be to create more chaos.
Full stop. Full stop. Most law enforcement, your training includes riot control, right? And protest protection, things like that, right? So how disingenuous of this Ann Applebaum, right? Because you notice what she did with her wordplay, right? She tried to throw in rioters with peaceful protesters, and law enforcement don't know what they're doing. Y'all saw what she did there, right? She basically tried to say these law enforcement officers do not have any training. There's no special technically training for riot police per se, except for there's certain guidelines they can't cross, right? But all in all, it really doesn't matter. The rules of engagement do not change if you're a civilian officer or a federal officer. The rules of engagement do not change, even for the armed forces, right? when it comes to domestic rules of engagement, we're pretty much all the same across the board. So what is this woman over here talking about that these guys aren't trained? Well, I mean, okay, let's give her that. They're not trained. FPS is not that extensive where they could provide, you know, they have a whole police station of resources in one spot. That's not what that's not their purpose to have that. They don't have a lot of, you know, land to cover, a building here, a building there, right? The other thing I want to bring up too is, if those of you know what GSA is, right? GSA is basically the land broker for the federal government. And any building that has a federal office in it, federal government has jurisdiction. So though the FPS agents could be anywhere in Portland arresting people for damaging public for federal property. But the non-statist in me should open your eyes to something else. How big has the federal government gotten that they have to protect so many resources and their jurisdiction expands so much, but yet they're so thin when it comes to protecting it? Just something to think about, right? Let's over here. Yeah, it's over here. Let's go back to the video real quick.
You know, of course, this isn't full-on dictatorship. He isn't arresting the mayor or conducting mass arrests or putting thousands of people in jail. But what he is doing is creating pictures that are designed to show other Americans how tough he is. So the fact that these men are wearing, men and women maybe, are wearing camouflage, that they look heavily armed, they're wearing face masks. This is designed to show and kind of act out dominance. Look, we're pushing.
Act out dominance. Are you kidding me, lady? So we have videos out here. She's trying to say Trump is trying to have a photo op, right? That to show how tough he is and how dominant he is. But these people failed to they forgot one thing.
Now carnage in America. Here he is today.
Now carnage in America. Here he is today announcing a surge of federal law enforcement officers that will go to Chicago and Albuquerque for now, perhaps more places later, followed by the words of two Americans who lost innocent loved ones to this violence.
I mean, they're showing you there's footage, but they're not showing you what these people are actually doing. You've seen in that video, those 4 different videos from 4 different places, what these rioters are doing. But we're trying to show dominance. No, it's showing law and order. We need law and order back, because guess what? These riots and stuff are holding the citizens of the city hostage. The ones that don't want to be up in the middle of this, they're holding them hostage. The other thing that the media is doing is being Donald Trump's campaign. They are being he doesn't have to do anything for a campaign. They're doing it for him, showing people, hey, this riot, they're basically saying rioting is okay. And even your normal apolitical person or your common sense American is going to be like, wait a minute, really? I'm telling you, they're shifting votes to Trump and they don't even realize what they're doing. Maybe they do. Okay, they don't. But let's continue with the video over here. Let's continue with the video.
Pushing back against the liberal America, the urban America, the chaotic America that you're all afraid of. And this is how we're going to win the argument. This way of using troops and using photographs of violence is something that we have seen in other authoritarian states, particularly in Russia, where Putin in 2014 used pictures of violence to imply that the democracy movement in Ukraine was really some kind of Nazi fascist uprising, and that he was then putting it down.
It is a fascist rising. It's this is what it is. This is what it looks like. This is what it looked like when Stalin took over, minus the tear gas and all that stuff. right? The rioting was the precursor to how Stalin violently took over Russia. This is exactly the blueprint. Why are people denying this? Why are these people so jacked up in their brains? I remember something what Bakari Seller said a while back about Kanye when he said, this is what happens when that doesn't read. This is what happens when these media pundits that these people depend on don't read a history book. They don't read a history book. Most of them that have studied this stuff pointed out like this is exactly what happened before Stalin took over. Exactly what happened. These riots. But I digress. Let's continue with the video.
So this is a tactic we've seen used in other parts of the world.
And we've already seen the photographs and footage of this be used in campaign ads. So that really punctuates your article. Philip, I want to turn to you because one thing that concerns me about this is the experience that Black and brown people have when we encounter police. So Attorney General Bill Barr has said that in these new cities that the police officers are going to be clearly identifiable. I don't know that makes it better, considering that when Black people encounter police, they're 3 times more likely to be killed. In Chicago, they're 6 times more likely to be killed. What do you make of this?
Yeah. Now, before he gets into his statement, we hear that narrative all the time, right? We hear that all the time. That Black people more likely, 6 times more likely to get killed in interaction, da 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 da. But the question is, why is that? Why? Why is that the case? I mean, let's be honest. Why is that the case? Maybe because of these progressive policies in this city or any of these cities that these Black men are getting killed in, these progressive policies, the progressive boot, the government boot on people's necks, all these different laws where, hell, you got to have 4 different licenses to even carry a gun on the street in some cities. You got to have this kind of permit to transport it, this kind of permit to carry it, this kind of permit to buy it, right? But why is that? Ask yourselves, why is it Black folks are more than likely to encounter police more often than any other group of people? Because the Black community is over policed. I mean, these people need to stop being disingenuous when it comes to this. I'm kind of curious to see what this guy has to say about this. And I bet you, I'll be honest, I haven't even watched this yet. But I already know what their talking points are going to be. So let's see if he confirms what I says or goes the complete opposite direction to try to make Black folks look like all Black folks are victims.
Yeah, I mean, Ann put it exactly right. These are not here. These troops are not here to make anything better, right? They're set up in camouflage, which, by the way, they're not blending into any urban environment with those uniforms to make the folks who were protesting, who had been almost entirely peaceful in Portland up until this point.
They have been almost peaceful up until this point when we've had 11 straight days of them attacking the federal courthouse. But that's peaceful, right? Shining lasers in people's faces is peaceful. Setting things on fire, the fence on fire, the side of the building on fire is peaceful. If that's peaceful, I'm about to go rack up a whole truck full of AR-15s and march down the street shooting at stuff, saying I'm a peaceful protester. You hear what I'm saying? You hear how stupid that sounds? God, I digress. Let's get back to it, y'all.
Make them fear that there is going to be some kind of forceful, physical, violent reaction to their peaceful expression of their First Amendment rights. And the thing I want folks to understand is this is over the objections not only of the mayor, the U.S. attorney, the attorney general, the governor, but of local law enforcement as well. Local law enforcement has been trying for the last 7-8 weeks to figure out how they regain legitimacy and trust of vulnerable communities. And this is explicitly not helping.
Okay, first of all, what it explicitly is not helping this situation is this guy being completely disingenuous with this situation. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest. This guy's not being completely genuine with this situation. The federal officers are guarding federal property that these people are trying to damage. But he's going to conflate that with the Portland police officers trying to get order. It doesn't matter. These people attacked a federal building. This is federal jurisdiction now. But maybe he needs a lesson in federalism. Maybe he can sign up for my class on federalism and hear my dissertation on federalism. Maybe this guy needs to check on that. So to sit there and say that all these people in Oregon don't want them there, they don't have a choice. Boo freaking who? Cry your eyes out. It's federal property. Let's continue. Let's continue with this nincompoop right here.
I have to make it clear, in cities where you can't trust law enforcement, where you can't call if there's something violent happening to get law enforcement because you're worried about what's going to happen when they show up, that's a great place for people who want to engage in illegal behavior. So now you've got federal law enforcement there, right? There's a concern not only about your local.
He's right. He's right. People want to engage in illegal activity. Remember in the park? Remember we read the readout from last night? Over in the park, they found spike strips, all kinds of stuff, chemicals, fire starting stuff. People are trying to chisel through a fence that don't belong to them, shooting mortars at police officers. Yeah, they are engaging in illegal activity. And it's not because the feds are there. It's because they are spoiled freaking brats. And the media told them to do it in so many words, but I'm going to digress from that. That's another video for another day. Let's get back over here to the video.
But of the federal as well. Who the heck is calling the cops in that situation? And how does that make any city safer? When nobody wants you there, you are there for a photo op. You are not there for public safety.
You make a good point. Even the Portland mayor has said this has exacerbated the violence there. Sarah, I have to tell you, I honestly did think that this is something that President Trump is doing to feed his base, to give Fox News, footage that they need. You say that it's not that simple. That
I got these people here. You kind of hear what they're saying about this. You know what I mean? I want to real quick. I want to go over. There's one article that came out in the Oregon Live, or Oregonian as it's called. The Oregon AG tried to go in and have the federal's police actions restricted. You know how dumb that sounds? You know how really dumb that sounds? But guess what? Here's the thing, people. If people wouldn't have given away their 17th Amendment right, well, I'm sorry, if they wouldn't have passed the 17th Amendment, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here at all. We really wouldn't be here because the states would have a say in what the federal government does. Instead, they gave it to the people. This is the instance. If you want to restrict federal police actions, get rid of the 17th Amendment, because guess what? Congress is not going to get rid of it on their own, and the federal government will flex their muscles at every chance they get. I mean, this is completely stupid. But I want to end with this with the video, okay? And before the video ends, make sure you have subscribed. You have done all of that good stuff, right? Click the bell, all that. Because we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to grow the channel, all that good stuff. So please do that, and I appreciate you for doing that. In this last video, this is Alderman Lopez. After his aftermath with Lori Lightfoot, the infamous call. I want to play it for you. I'll play it for you real quick here, and then we'll get back. We'll get back to it.
My fear is once they're done looting and rioting, whatever's going to happen tonight. God help us. God help us. What happens when they start going after residents? I want an answer. It's not something you ignore. This is a question that I have.
I think you're 100% what I think. If you think
no offense.
Y'all remember that phone call when it came out, right? But he said something very profound and very on point about these leftist politicians. They want to talk about authoritarianism. These mayors has the boots on, already strapped up and stomping on everything, stomping on the people and do whatever they want to do. But they want to blame Donald Trump. But Alderman Lopez said it right.
It's unfortunate because the mayor has been going back and forth with the president. To be perfectly honest, I don't agree on many of his policies, but protecting our citizens should not be a partisan issue. As a Democrat, seeing my residents, seeing my family's gunned down is not a partisan issue. And for her to go for weeks on end, tweeting back and forth and making all kinds of comments, and then finally admitting yesterday that she's open to having the FBI, DEA, and ATF come in. Those comments that she made remind you how many lives were lost because of politics and grandstanding in the city of Chicago.